Hello and welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live. If you're watching Sunday Night Live, fantastic. If not, I know a lot of you catch up in the week. You're very welcome. Jose Mourinho, happier than he's ever been? Question mark. Does that make him more dangerous than he's ever been? We'll be talking about Mourinho tonight and what it means to be number one and how long we can keep hold of that, what the season ahead means to us. We'll also be talking in a few minutes' time about Manchester United's debt. Some very interesting headlines breaking this afternoon. If people haven't read about it, we'll be discussing that as well. Really interested by that. We'll also be celebrating 4 years of Fellaini. 4 years of Fellaini. I'm sure that's going to be interesting listening as well. And also a massive decision that Jose Mourinho potentially faces in January / next summer. We'll be discussing that and taking all of your comments. I'm joined by Ross as per usual on a Sunday. How you doing, Ross?
Yeah, good mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Week off work, back tomorrow, which is a bit disappointing. But international break build up towards a proper game at the weekend has to be a positive. Don't like these international breaks. Don't think you do either.
No, it's literally been the worst weekend and week ever. It's been awful.
I was glad I was away, you see. I always try and plan to do something on an international break. See it come in and try and do stuff. But transfer window shut. We don't need to dwell on that at the start. Let's talk a bit about Jose Mourinho. Obviously, the charity game yesterday, if anyone's not seen it, if you've seen the thumbnail, it's got Jose Mourinho number one on it, which I think is quite symbolic at the moment because we are number one and I believe we have got the best manager in the world. But went in goal, used his Saturday international break to go and do something for charity, which is fantastic. But what really is important is I think that when you look at, I mean, the way I compare it, Ross, is a bit like everyone always says if they're music minded that the difficult second album, a new band will do well on the first one, then it's a difficult second album. I mean, you look at Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory, they were the sort of trendsetters on how you do a good second album. But if you want to go with that sort of analogy, I think what Mourinho's done is sort of a bit, the only band I could think of that replaced their lead singer was, and this shows my age, is AC/DC. And they did very well with it. And I don't think Mourinho has a first album. I think Mourinho's more like, it's a bit like Dumbledore in Harry Potter when Michael Gambon takes over Richard Harris as Dumbledore. It's like you're taking over Sir Alex Ferguson and he's got a back catalogue of loads of brilliant albums. And I think, you know, Mourinho, his first album taking over that mantle was pretty difficult. But this album, this second season, it looks like it's going to be a classic. I know it's very early, but he just looks happier over the summer. He looks happier this season. We commented last year, he didn't, you know, he was struggling, understandably, but he just looks happier, and that makes him very dangerous, I believe.
Definitely, I think he looks happier because he actually knows this season that he's got a team that should challenge Pep and should rise well above him, and that's where his happiness resides. But let's not forget he's got the support system around him as well. He's not at a mercenary club. He's not at Chelsea. He hasn't got Roman Abramovich above him. He's actually got support. And although Abramovich does support his managers in the transfer market, he doesn't really show them a lot of support in actual life. You know, like put an arm around their shoulder, tell them they're going to look after him a bit. And I think all United managers, even up after Fergie, have had that treatment. I think Van Gaal lasted way too long, longer than he should have done. And I think that's because we do try and protect our managers. And David Moyes, I think he dug his own grave, to be honest, with his press conferences. I thought he was awful. So he will be happy. And I think any manager we should ever get will be happy. But it is, like you just said, it's lovely to see Jose have a smile on his face, and it's good to see him at that game for Grenfell yesterday with a smile on his face, and so he should, because I think he has been backed personally and in the transfer market, and he's got one hell of a team now. So yeah, I think I'm pleased for him.
Yeah, and what I was saying there is I think Mourinho is very dangerous because I think I know Mourinho in his time in the Premier League when he first came over from Porto, and he is the best manager in the world. And last year I think he achieved things in very difficult circumstances, winning the Europa League, getting us in the Champions League. But this season, looking happy, feeling more confident, we didn't really see that. I mean, people go on about him living in a hotel and all that lot, but early season last year, the kicking of the bottle, he seemed to be quite suppressed by the FA, targeted, so to speak, by the officials. in a position of not much power, coming into a club that's been decaying for 4 years since Sir Alex Ferguson left. Not really in a position of power. I think he is now. I think he knows what Manchester United's all about. He's got the players around him that he trusts. I think United are very, very dangerous. And as was tweeted out on the United Stand account today, I think if we can be top of the league when Zlatan comes in, then things look very, very, very good for us. Just let's go on to that decision very quickly. I don't want to dwell on transfers too much, but the talk of the town today is that Jose Mourinho will have a decision to make next summer in relation to his number 7 and his star signing, Griezmann or Gareth Bale. Just very quickly on those two, Ross, which one would you go for?
That's a really tough question. Obviously, in the summer, you'd have picked Griezmann all day, but I'd wait this season and see how it goes, because Griezmann's form hasn't looked good for a while. Even at the back end of last season, his form wasn't really there. So I don't want anyone coming to United out of form, regardless of whether we know that they can play. I just think that form is key. So I'd be interested to see how they both play. And to be honest, you never know. There could be another rising star that we could go for instead, because the Griezmann thing does piss me off a little bit. I honestly feel like that flag has flown for him, and we shouldn't hold this shirt number 7 for him. I don't think he's that good. I'm not saying that he's a bad player. I'm just saying I don't think he's that good that you wait all summer for him. You let him turn you down. You hold the shirt, and then you give it to him the next summer. I don't know. I think he needs to prove himself this season at Atletico. He needs to do something to warrant United spending £90 million on him and giving him our most iconic shirt. So if you ask me now, I'd probably pick Bale, because I think Bale's in better form.
Yeah, I did a video last night. I don't for 1 minute think that Gareth Bale snubbed Manchester United, but I did that video last night. If you're asking me who I'd take, Griezmann or Bale, it would be Griezmann. I don't disagree with anybody who doesn't think that, and I was very, very frustrated with him this summer. But I think Bale. I think Bale's a fantastic player, but I think Griezmann is potentially more suitable to Manchester United. But to be honest, if we signed either of those, I was saying this, Ross, as well. I mean, very quickly, we've not spoken in a week in relation to the transfer window. You obviously witnessed it the last week. We didn't sign anybody. My summary was that I think we got away with it, really, because I think if City did get Sanchez and Lamar had gone to Liverpool, they would have been stronger than they are now. But I just feel that United are getting away with it on many levels, whether it's teams failing to get the transfers they wanted, favourable Champions League draws, top of the league with no goals conceded and loads of goals. At the moment, Fellaini and Lingard getting the winner in the last game. Everything Mourinho touches at the moment is going really, really well for Manchester United, and long may that continue. But do you think we've got enough throughout the season to do it? Obviously, Pereira left as well.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to pick out what's true and what's not, but the rumours that I was hearing is that Jose actually got offered Sanchez from the United board and turned him down because he thought that him as a player and as a character would actually unsettle our squad, which is in a point of really good harmony. And that's a really key point, is that the team is so united at the minute. You have to be really careful who you bring in, what sort of personality. And I was quite surprised that he brought Zlatan back, but I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. And I can imagine that despite all of the front that he gives, he's actually quite a bit of a character in the dressing room, and they probably liked him. So I was quite happy with what we did, and bringing Zlatan back probably did ease my concerns, because it means that we do have another striker. And I think, even though Jose's saying, Christmas time, I think if Lukaku got injured, and it's a big if, and it's a hopefully no, Zlatan would come back a lot quicker than he is, projected to, because he's got that time with Lukaku in the form that he's in. Yeah,
and also I think that I think Zlatan will be back before January. I do. I really do think he'll be back before that. Richard Stein has made a contribution. Thank you, Richard. He says Bale has turned us down too many times. Don't want a player who doesn't doesn't understand or love the club. I don't think he did snub us this time in the last 2 weeks. But I've discussed why on that, and some people disagree, and that's the whole point, isn't it? Everyone's got an opinion. Somebody else asked about Griezmann. It is official now that his release clause is back down to 89 million again. Which, Ross, that is a bargain. that is, you know, look at what's happened this summer. My hope with Griezmann is that there was a discussion with Mourinho back in June around loyalty, and Griezmann saying, I can't leave Atletico Madrid in the lurch. I've been here for a couple of years. I can't do it. And maybe, hopefully, Mourinho said, look, I understand that. I respect that. But come to us next summer. And Griezmann remembers that and comes to us. Because my concern around Griezmann now is that he was coming to us, but he effectively can go anywhere next summer, and 90 million is his release clause. That is a snip. That is an absolute bargain. You know, kids like Dembele and Mbappe have gone for 160 and 130 and done nothing in the game yet. And Griezmann is a third in the Ballon d'Or last year, proven in his prime, and you can get him for 90 million, which is a bargain. Neymar's just gone for 200 million. So I suppose the concern around Griezmann could be that, yeah, United, but I'm sure Barcelona and others will fancy him at that price.
Yeah, and I think he's a far superior player to Philippe Coutinho as well, and 90 million is not even half of what Coutinho is worth these days, apparently. But I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. Yes, I'd like Griezmann to happen next summer. 90 million is a bargain, but I want to be buying a top class Griezmann. I don't want a Griezmann that's hit 8 goals for Atletico over the whole season, in and out of injury, looks like he doesn't want to be there. I want to be buying Griezmann at his absolute prime. So that's why I wouldn't nail the transfer on now. He's going to have to still prove himself, because players can decline very quickly, and I'm not saying Griezmann will, and I'm hoping that he won't, but I want to buy next summer for £90 million a player in the form of his life, and Griezmann has to be that for me to warrant buying him, but I'm not the money man.
Fair points. Dwarfy15 says 80 million is a bargain. The showstopper, I'm going to ask this question to Ross in a minute, but I'll give him a few comments to have a think about it. He says, who do you think our main challengers for the title are? Isco or Griezmann or Asensio, says Chad Sproul. I don't think we'll get either from Real Madrid, so I think we need to focus on Griezmann. How old will Griezmann be next summer? I think 27 or 28. I think he's 26 or 27 at the moment. Griezmann will be 27, James, says George Kyle. You need hungry players, says Summer Breeze. Agree, Ross. We need a Galactico, Griezmann. And I hope Atletico do badly, especially in the Champions League. Makes him want to come to United more, says Michael Schofield. And you don't want Griezmann, he doesn't want to be there. How is he going to join us then? Humza's made a good point. I don't understand this. He says, why is there only 1,000 people watching? First of all, it's international break and the transfer window shut. We've been doing this for 3 years. There seems to be a drop-off when the transfer window shuts and when the international break hits. But for the first 5 minutes, we only had 500 people watching, and it's doubled in the last few minutes. I'm just wondering if people didn't get a late notification, or they were watching a match and it's half time. If you could let us know in the live comments, that would be appreciated, because it was a bit weird. But make sure you drop a like and get involved. Ross, quickly, who's our main rival for the title?
Man City for me, to be honest. I think that they're the strongest. I think they've invested the most. Don't know if they've invested that well, but they've invested the most. And yeah, I just think out of everyone, it's going to be them. I think Chelsea will have their second season syndrome that they always have, and Liverpool are Liverpool, aren't they? And Arsenal are Arsenal. So for me, it's the Manchester clubs. We're probably going to get the title race that we all expected last season, which never happened. I think it's going to happen this year.
Yeah, it is interesting because we're discussing that again, and it did fall apart by October last year, and you wonder whether it will happen again. I would agree. I think Chelsea with European football will fall away. I think Spurs with Wembley can't do it. I think Liverpool with European football will fall away. Arsenal don't even get starts. It's got to be City and United. It's the logical choice, and I think United. I do think United. I've been saying that for weeks now. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is the debt, which is quite surprising. I don't know how much you know about this, Ross, but I read it in The Independent today. I'd sort of taken my eye off the ball. We're going to talk about Fellaini in 4 years in a minute, but let's talk about this first. United's debt has grown by 25% in the last year. I mean, my understanding was that it was coming down and down and down. It now stands, we are the #1 club in world football for debt, with 536 million euro debt. Second place is Benfica with 336 million, Inter Milan 306 million, Valencia, a club in real trouble, half the debt we have, No other English club in the top 10. You've got teams like AC Milan, CSKA Moscow, Galatasaray, Juventus, Roma, lots of Italian clubs, and QPR have huge debts. What's your thoughts on that, Ross? We know that the profits are record profits for Manchester United, but the debt soars. Where's the money going? Is it a concern for United? Is this why Mourinho didn't get the fourth signing?
To be honest, I might sound really naive, but to me, I don't like the Glaziers. I don't like how they run the club, but the debt as a figure just does not bother me whatsoever. Because when you look at it in comparable to what United are worth, it's not really a huge amount of money. It's just that we're worth so much more than any other club. Our debt's going to be higher. I know it shouldn't be as high as it is, but if we ever fell into a situation where we were struggling, there are about 500 and literally 500 people around the world that want to buy our club. And it's only the fact that the Glaziers are hanging on for dear life to it is the reason why we haven't been bought out yet. But if they ever become unstuck, they'd just sell it instantly, shed loads of money out of the club, and we'll probably be bought by a billionaire that will invest loads. And to be honest, at the minute, I don't know if I want that. Not saying that I like the Glaziers, but I like the fact that we're still kind of running as a business that keeps itself going, and we cling on to that a little bit, because this PSG Man City thing is ridiculous, and I really don't want United to become that, even though we could compete a little bit more. We can compete as we are. We're a self-sustained club. And yeah, like I say, we have debt. I think we were valued at 2 billion. So we've got about a quarter of our assets as debt, and it's manageable. And from what I can gather, my research that I put into it about 6 months ago, I was researching to sort of say what's going on. And our interest payments are quite low because they just keep refinancing the debt, which is not great for a valuation kind of thing, because it will make the debt rise, but the interest payments that we're paying just seem to get lower and lower. So over our budgets for the end of the year, it doesn't really affect us too much.
Yeah. I think Ross is right, really. If Manchester United did get into trouble, then we would be bought by loads and loads of billionaires, because Manchester United make more money than any club. As a business, it's a going concern. It's a bit of an unusual thing for people to get their heads around, I suppose, because we're not in debt because the business is failing. Most businesses that are in debt are failing. When you think about, I mean, this is very UK centric, but BHS, British Home Stores, got into a lot of debt because they weren't making profit. Manchester United makes a lot of profit. What our owners do is they don't service the debt. In fact, they increase the debt because they acquire other assets and use Manchester United as the sort of guarantor on a lot of things they do. As I said before about the Glazers, they're not Manchester United fans. They never were Manchester United fans. They saw an opportunity they never should have been given. We'd never been in debt before. When they bought us, we were a thriving business as we are now, and they bought us off a massive mountain of debt, and it never should have been allowed. But from a business point of view, it was genius, absolute genius. You are given a business that will always make money, and you buy it on debt, and then you service that debt and take profit out of the club. So yeah, I'd agree. It is despicable. George Carl said it is despicable. It makes me sick. From a Manchester United point of view, obviously, as fans, the issue is that if we were run properly and we didn't have debt, then that money could be put towards transfers, etc., like that, and that's the way we should be run. But we're not. We're run by businessmen who will give us money for transfers, but not the sort of money we should have, really. I mean, I saw a great comment, Ross, the other day, that the disappointing thing about the transfer window for this person in particular wasn't the fact that we didn't get a winger, which they were disappointed about. It was the fact that 3 star players moved this summer, Neymar, Dembele and Mbappe, and United weren't near any of them. And that was the disappointing thing for that person, because they were saying, you know, we are the football powerhouse. We have got the money to do it, and we weren't even involved. And that's the disappointing thing that you have with the Glazers. We will never be involved in those sort of deals because they've got profits and shareholders to pay. If we were run by somebody who hadn't bought us on debt and we were run as a football club, guarantee we would have been in for one of those. But I suppose, you know, it is what it is, isn't it?
One of the questions that I'd love to be answered, that I really don't know the answer to, is that I've got a funny feeling that if this sale of United happened today, the same Glacier thing where they bought us out, put us into £500 million worth of debt, I'm sure someone would step in from the FA or from UEFA and stop that. Given all this financial fair play nonsense that gets banded around, I just don't think that deal would ever happen again. I think it was unique to its time, and I think it'd get stopped. So you've got to look at these organisations like the FA that, always concerned about debt in football, yet they let the biggest debt in football happen, and they just turned a blind eye to it, which was annoying.
I think I did read somewhere, and it's total speculation, that the reason a blind eye was turned to it was because it was Manchester United, and they saw that it was going to hinder United, who would, potentially, if they'd been allowed to carry on, absolutely destroy, just dominate the Premier League, which, to be honest, we would. But I suppose that's the argument, really, isn't it? Should United have been allowed to be disabled by the Glazers, because we haven't spent anywhere near as much as we generate, really, or should United have been, should that deal have been stopped and United only been bought by people who actually could afford it, and then we buy what we want every summer and we dominate English football? In some ways, I suppose it's worked out more entertaining, but we do have the much bigger support than everybody else. And there's a great comment here from Cameron Lindsay saying it's not fair. We put so much of our time and money into the club and it's not reciprocated, which is an interesting point. But there you go. We do have over £500 million of debt now, and it's gone up by 25% in the last year. So the debt's not coming down. Interesting. The next thing I want to talk about, this is going to be fun. 4 years of Fellaini, Ross. 4 years he's been here. I jokingly tweeted out before that you can get less than 4 years for murder, and maybe that was the answer because I'd be out by now. But in all seriousness, 4 years, and I've read some comments from people today saying, Fellaini's the flavour of the moment at the moment, flavour of the month at the moment, because he scored a goal against Leicester, and everyone's back on the Fellaini bandwagon, but the bottom line is he's shit. I mean, I thought that was a bit harsh, and it wasn't my comment, but he is still here. He will be here for another year. His contract is up in the summer, so I'd expect he's going to sign a new contract. 4 years, I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him, or your wig. I can't believe he's been here that long.
No, 4 years. It does seem... It seems like he's only been here 2, but then you remember all the managers that he's played under. But I always try to look at it like it's not Fellaini's fault. It's not even his fault that he was here. It wasn't his fault that he was signed for £6 million more than he should have been signed for, given the buyout clause scenario when we bought him. And what's interesting to me, and it might only just be me, it might be a few fans, I'm not sure, but Jose said that he would make United fans turn on Fellaini, as in they would like him or learn to love him, I think he said. Love's a strong word, but I am turning to like Fellaini, and the reason why I like Fellaini at the minute is because I really like Jose's use of him, and I quite like having him in the squad. I just think he's a problem. He's elbows, he's offside, whatever, he scores offside goals, but he's just a bit of a problem for defenders, and it's not how United want to play. We don't want to see Fellaini starting, but I've heard it come out of your very mouth last week that you would be happy to see him start away at Stoke or a team like that, and that's what he is, and we'll use him for that, and we'll use him to come on in the 80th minute and throw a few elbows about, win the ball in the air. So I'm learning to love Jose's use of Fellaini, and if he carries on, I'm happy to see him stay in the squad. And if we win the Premier League this season and Fellaini keeps coming on and scoring 80th minute goals, I'll get his name on the back of my top next year.
And keep drinking the Guinness. I actually think Fellaini, I was thinking that before you even said it, I think Fellaini will start against Stoke next week, because I looked at the Stoke lineup and they have sort of gone back to being quite a physical team. They don't really have great individuals anymore. They are a very physical side, and I think United can bully their way to the title. And I don't think we'll play Mata and Mkhitaryan. I know this is more for a show in the week when we're doing the preview, but we're playing Stoke away from home. It was only that late free kick from Rooney that broke the record back in January that got us a point there. I think this is the perfect game in many ways to show that we can win the title. And I think to win next week, we're going to have to go and physically go toe-to-toe with them. And I think I think if people want Herrera in the team, which I'd much rather see Pogba, Herrera and Matic, I can't wait to see it. But I think we'll see Fellaini, Pogba and Matic next week, which is beast mode midfield with Lukaku, Bailly, Valencia. I think that's what we'll do. And I think if we come away with that from that game with 3 points, every game's an individual battle of its own. And I don't think we'll see Mata and Mkhitaryan next week. I do think we'll see Fellaini. But on Fellaini himself, I'd still sell him tomorrow for a packet of snaps and a packet of Rolos. I would. I've got to be consistent about that. But as I said last night, this is it. We go with what we've got. And I agree with what Ross said there, is him and Lingard on the bench. I don't really have a massive problem with it in relation to the squad we have at the moment. They're 2 of the better options to put on the bench. I don't want them anywhere near the starting lineup. And I'll stand by what I said, that if Lingard and Fellaini start as many games as they did last year, we won't win the league. We'll be battling for 4th. But if they're coming off the bench with 20 minutes to go, then I think, they are valuable squad members, and I don't really have a massive problem with that. And ultimately, even if I did, the transfer window's shut. They're here for the season, and we go with what we've got, and I think we've got to be united by it. Lots and lots of discussions actually today. I mean, I don't want to move on from Fellaini other than to say 4 years, it's been emotional, as Dwarfy said. But a lot of people talking about Phil Jones at the moment, Ross. I mean, I did want to bring him in. He's sort of like the new divider, Calamity Jones. What's your thoughts on him? I mean, Gareth Southgate saying he's the best defender in England at the moment, and he certainly wasn't involved in the US tour at all, and then started the first game and he's played every game. It seems that his first choice with Bailly at the moment. Where do you stand on the Phil Jones phenomenon?
Do you know what? I hope he's watching it for nostalgia periods, because Alex on the United Stand, you should get so much stick for stuff that he said, but he has been a constant backer of Phil Jones, and I turned on Phil Jones last season. And, last season when he had that run of games and he looked good, and then he just disappeared again because he got injured. And I thought, do you know what? And after he come back from that injury, he was horrendous. And I remember us dropping quite a few points because Jose kept playing him. And for me, that was the end of Phil Jones at Manchester United.
He was bad, to be fair.
He was crap. But this season, he's I don't know what's happened to him, but I thought the first sort of game he played, maybe first 2, that he was just riding the wave of having Matic in front of him and playing next to what I class as a world-class centre-back. But I think it was against Leicester. I was actually watching him play and going, actually, he's playing out of his skin here. And the key thing, I actually, looking at him now, I've changed my mind, and I think he's a far superior defender than Chris Smalling, but he just can't get 5 games in a row because of his body. But the interesting thing that I've seen from him this season, which is why I'm going to back him to keep his place in the team and keep being injury free, is that he seems to be, throughout his whole career, Phil Jones has always overrun the ball, 50-50 challenges all the time, out of position, always diving in last minute and just getting himself injured. He seems to have a lot more composure, and I'm seeing less of these rash challenges, which is the key thing for him to not get injured. So I'm going to back him, and I think, regardless of how, Lindelof or Smalling or even Rojo coming back, Phil Jones has to make a mistake before he loses his place in that team.
Yeah, there's some good comments about Jones here. Phil Jones prayed to Fellaini for health, says Narian. Paul Pogba's just said Jones and then a smiley emoji. Daniel, I'm not... Oh no, that's about comments. Some more on Phil Jones, please. Jones will have a calamity at some point, says Delta Daz. And Phil Jones should be 4th choice for England behind Cahill, Keane and Stones, says Chad Sproul. No, I think he's better than 3 of them. Phil Jones isn't so bad as you think, says Sufyan Plays, which, I've got to just come back on that. John Watchinu has just said, do you think we'll keep Smalling? Well, we obviously are. The transfer window's shut. We are keeping Smalling. I suppose that was a bit of a surprise. Some people were very disappointed that we didn't get rid of both of them, or at least one of them, but they both survived. A very weird transfer window in summary. I think let's just leave it at that for another year. But with regards to Phil Jones, Ross, I don't know whether you remember him when he was at Blackburn, but I remember United effectively, distinctly, going to Blackburn away. And it would have been around 2011 or 10 when, I can't remember when we signed him. He's been here about 6 years. So yeah. And we went there at the end of the season. He played against Rooney. Blackburn weren't a very good side. He played very, very well. He was called the next John Terry. I think it's because he's a bit of a blockhead. But he did play like John Terry. He played very, very well as a very young lad at centre-back for Blackburn. And I think what I've seen in that little bit before Christmas with Rojo, then he came back like you said and he was awful. But the start of this season, he is the closest thing to John Terry in the English game. Now, he's nowhere near as good as John Terry at the moment. John Terry, as much as he's a complete clown off the pitch, he was a very good centre-back. But Phil Jones is the closest thing to John Terry. Who idolised and loved John Terry? Jose Mourinho. I think Mourinho sees John Terry and Phil Jones. But I'm like you and many other people, I think we're going to be disappointed. I think if you're on the Jones bandwagon, you're going to be disappointed. I've said this so many times. He could be the next Franco Baresi, the next Maldini, the next John Terry, the next Ferdinand. He could be anything he wants to be. He could be the best defender in the world. He will let you down. He's done it for 6 years. He can't stay fit. I think it was last season was 6 games in a row was his record in 6 years. Centre-backs partnerships are built on playing 30, 40 games. You know, if he can do that, I want the lottery numbers off him. He ain't going to do it. And that is the problem with Phil Jones. I think, you know, potentially he's a very, very good centre-back. But we just can't trust him. And I'm surprised that Mourinho feels that he can. And hopefully Mourinho is going to pull the magic out of the bag. But I suspect by the middle of September he'll have another injury. And you can't build a centre-back partnership around that, which is very sad because it's not his fault.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think that you're right in saying that historically he will get injured, but I just see something a little bit different from him this season. That he's just a little bit more composed, and hopefully he won't get injured by making them rash challenges. And I'm very much on the Phil Jones bandwagon. I'm pretty much on the every United player bandwagon at the minute because we've won 3 on the trot, but. Yeah, I'm on the Phil Jones bandwagon, and I hope that partnership can last. And I think the quote that you were talking about with the John Terry thing, I've got to bring it up because I remember it clear as day that it was one of the defensive coaches to Fergie recommended to Ferguson Phil Jones, and he was like, "What's this Phil Jones about?" And he said he was a 19-year-old that was already at John Terry's level at the age of 19, and you have to sign him, which Fergie took. You know, as gospel, as he always did from his coaches. That's why he brought Bebe. But, you know, it's a shame it hasn't worked out. But maybe Jose can revive that John Terry spirit.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm just having a quick look at the latest news to see if anything's going on. There's a good comment from here. Matt Grease, I think, sums it up perfectly for me. He says he's a good player. It's just the injuries, that's all. I don't trust him, which is, you know, it's his problem to solve. And, you know, Phil Jones is only 25. He could have 6 years as a United centre-back. You know, it benefits United if he's playing well and regularly for United because that means he's playing well, like I said. But I've just answered Ewan Gordon's question because he asked how old he is. Luis Garcia says, Mark, why do you hate England? I used to love England. I was alive. I remember 1990 very well, 96. Loved England. Used to get England shirts every year. I haven't bought one for about 15 years now. I don't watch international football. I certainly don't watch England. How anybody can be motivated to watch Joe Hart in goal, Gareth Southgate manager, and Jordan Henderson as captain. In fact, it's like a bad bloody dream. If somebody said that to me 5 years ago, you'll be managed by Southgate, Jordan Henderson will be your captain, and Joe Hart will be in goal, I'd have said, pinch me, I'm having a nightmare. We're just awful. We're an embarrassment. That's why. And we shouldn't be. I've seen England go wrong for 17 years, basically since 2000, when Keegan was given the job. It just started to go very, very... I mean, actually, probably go back further than that, 98. Hoddle was quite rightly sacked, but it was a shame he said something stupid because he was a very, very good tactician, and Venables had started the journey that Bobby Robson had started, that Graham Taylor ruined. Then we got Venables in. He should never have been let go. Silly FA again. Same with Hoddle. We were evolving into a good tactical national side, and then we just turned into a joke with people like Keegan, Ericsson, Capello, the Wally with the brolly. Yeah, it's just, and then the FA are just out to make money, and the Gerrard Lampard thing, you just never would play them together, and we did that for years and years and years. I just got fed up of England. I wouldn't use the word corrupt because that would sort of give them evidence that they actually have a brain. I think they're just clueless, and I've just given up on them. I don't know about you, Ross. I think you still watch them, don't you?
Nah, and I'm like you, mate. It's really sad because about 10 years ago, I would have given up all of United's success to watch England win a major tournament. I was fixated with them. And and I've always had an open mind with England, and I've always been willing to give anyone and everyone a chance. And Gareth Southgate, when he come in, I was a little bit, but I thought, I'll give him a chance. And he blew it this weekend for me, because it is obvious to not just me, every fan that's watching football at the minute, that Joe Hart is probably not only the worst English keeper in the Premier League, I actually think he's the worst keeper in the Premier League. And we've got some horrors, and a lot of them play for Liverpool. Why is he getting picked? And that just baffled me, and I thought, there goes your spine, there goes your backbone. I'm not interested. So I actually did watch the Malta game, but I didn't have a Malta t-shirt, but I was really, really wanting Malta to win, because I've just got no faith in this England team, and I just don't care.
The selection process for England has been that sort of, again, I don't want to use corrupt, but favourites, reputations rather than ability, and it's been like that for a long, long time. I mean, why? I mean, the good point is, because it is a Manchester United channel, obviously, is that Manchester United fans in general have hated England for a long, long time, because people like Gary Neville and Beckham used to get booed down at Wembley a lot. So United have always been very successful, so it's almost been a bit of an up yours towards England. But similarly to Ross, for a long time I did like England. Not anymore. I mean, you've got United players part of that squad, and to be honest with you, it's quite a big sign that England aren't that good when they've got Jesse Lingard in their best 20 players. I mean, nothing against Jesse Lingard, he's a squad player for Manchester United. Should he be in an England squad? That shows you the quality of the England squad. But apparently Rashford played well the other night. I didn't watch it. I'm not interested. I mean, Rashford should be bloody starting for England. I mean, why is he not starting? I mean, I've got no interest, like I say, but Rashford's the best player in England.
I'll tell you why. Because apparently, according to bent-nosed Gareth Southgate, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is a far superior player.
It's again, Southgate doesn't like United anyway, so it's picking people on reputation. England have been like that for a long, long time. Ericsson started it off. No, Keegan started it off. Then Ericsson took it on, just picking people on reputation and whether you like them or not, and not ability. But there you go, a long answer as to why I don't like England. A few people have been asking us this. Yeah, Southgate actually messed up the last tournament we were good in as well, Euro 96. Best chance of a generation, says Mr. Fresh. But back to Manchester United. I think we both think United can win the league, Ross. How far can we go in the Champions League? A few people have been asking this.
Oh, you shouldn't have asked me this, because I am the sort of United fan that just gets carried away when we have a win of games. And I honest to God, look at the Champions League, and there's some immense teams in there, and I think that fatigue will get us in the end. But I look at the Real Madrids and that, and I think, do you know what? When we played Real Madrid, I know they weren't fully fit, but we played crap. We played nowhere near to the level of performance we've played in these first three games of the Premier League. And I think on our day, over two legs, given the coach we have, we could challenge absolutely anyone. And I think realistically, it has to be semi-finals for me. I think we can definitely get there. But the thing is with me, I think if we get to the semi-finals, you just never know. You absolutely never know. And if there's one coach in world football that will put that doubt into an opposition's team of can we break this team down, it will be Jose Mourinho. So I can't answer the question, but for me, I think semi-finals is a banker.
Ooh, I like it. Football 3704, he agrees with you, as does Ewan Gordon. Summer Breeze says it all depends on the draw. Onyx D wants us to answer an England question, so I'll drop this into your head, Ross. He said who should manage England, and we'll come back to that in a minute or two. Champions League set for Ibrahimovic to finally win it, I believe, honestly, says St. Colombo. I don't think we can win it. I think Real Madrid I'm very impressed with Real Madrid, as much as I don't like their fans and the way they do things. I think the team that Zidane's built is so I've got so much admiration for it, because Real Madrid have always been about Galacticos, but that midfield three of Kroos, Casemiro and Modric, they're not real Galacticos in the old style of what Real Madrid used to have, but they're the best midfield three in world football. He's built an effective unit there, and I think Varane is the best centre-back in the world. He's better than Ramos. He's brilliant. I think Real Madrid have got such a good team, And it's not a team that, like Barcelona, if they don't turn up, like in PSG, they get absolutely rolled over because they're all about ability and not hard work. I think Real Madrid are pretty much unstoppable at the moment. They'd be the favourites, but anything can happen with Mourinho. He can beat anybody, and I agree with Ross. I don't think we played particularly well in the Super Cup, and we probably should have got beat 4 or 5-1, but we didn't. It could have been 2-2 on chances. So quarterfinals is what I've always said is a minimum, and then anything from that is a bonus. But to throw it back to you, Ross, and the live comments, I don't think this squad's big enough for the Premier League and the Champions League. I don't think it is. And I suppose what we saw very recently with the Europa League and the Premier League, and Jose had to more or less put all his eggs into one basket when you think about the teams he took to Arsenal and Spurs, and we lost those games. Scenario similar to last season, we hit March where, I don't expect us to, I'd love us to be 10, 15 points clear in March, but the reality is I think we'll win the title, but I think it'll be neck and neck. So end of March, we're neck and neck with, say, Man City for the title. City have been knocked out in the quarterfinal. We're in the quarterfinal. We've got a favourable draw. People are getting tired. What do you do? I mean, do you think we're capable of doing both, or do you think there should be a priority this year? Because we don't want to end up with nothing.
Jose's not stupid. He knows where his priorities lie this season, and it'll be Premier League. I think, and it's different, isn't it? If we'd already won the Premier League under Jose, he'd absolutely bin it for the Champions League, because the Champions League is his tournament. But he knows that if he wins the Premier League, it's kind of he's done it. That's what he should have done. Fantastic. If he gets to the semi-finals of the Champions League, he'd get the same reception, even the quarterfinal. Winning it would just be ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But what I will say, actually, given the squad that he's got, if he does pull off a double, and I'm not saying that he's going to, I'm just saying if he does, hands down, the best manager in world football still managing at this time, hands down, because Pep has had the equal, if not more, opportunity to do the same thing, given the amount of investment he's got, and he's flopped up till now, and we can all laugh and continue watching him flop.
Do you? Here's an interesting question then for you, because it's a very difficult one to answer. But what would you rather, if you can only choose one, Champions League or the Premier League this year?
Bit of Premier League for me, because I think ultimate bragging rights does lie with the Premier League. Because I remember when Chelsea won the Champions League, coming 3rd or 4th one season, and it's not the same. It really isn't. I know it's a really good achievement, but ultimately the Premier League's over 38 games. And it's the best team in the UK for me. That's what the Premier League is. You can fluke the Champions League. Porto did it. They weren't the best team in Europe. But for me, the Premier League doesn't lie. And whoever wins the Premier League is because they are the best team in the country at that time. So I'd take the Premier League all day. It was, but again, just it was different. When we had Fergie and we were winning Premier Leagues every season, I'd have gone the other way. But I think it's the lack of Premier Leagues for me. It's just that's absolute number one goal.
We need to win the Premier League, and we need to win it soon. It's been 5 years, so we don't want to become Arsenal or Liverpool. I mean, I know that would be another 25 years on top of the 5 to be close to Liverpool. But no, we need to. I agree. We need to win the Premier League. I think I said it when Mourinho came in. Premier League within the first 2 years, and Champions League within 5 years, and I'd be happy with that. So. 2 Premier Leagues and a Champions League, 5 years of Mourinho, and everyone's very happy. But yeah, Premier League, I would agree with that. Lynn Hall says, don't believe reports Ronaldo wanted to return to United this summer. Ridiculous claims in the press. He was only ever using us to get his way as usual, and Jose knew that. Yeah, I saw that, Lynn, and I don't know whether anyone else has seen it. I saw it in the last hour. What an absolute load of nonsense. No, there is no way in a million years Ronaldo wanted to come back to United. We fell for it a little bit at the back of June. He's a double Champions League winner. He's going for an unprecedented 3rd. He's going to keep winning the Ballon d'Or every year. Real Madrid win it. He's going to keep, he doesn't need to come back to United. There's nothing he can do to stat pad here. Absolute nonsense, Ross. I don't even know where it's come from.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But the best thing about that Ronaldo rumour is that we all knew it was a load of bollocks. But we all kind of got sucked into it a little bit just with that ounce of hope that it would happen. You couldn't help but get excited. But at the same time, it was interesting because everyone knew it was absolute nonsense, because we've had that every season. We had it with other players other than Ronaldo, like Ramos, and it's just ridiculous. I don't know why the press think they can play us like that.
It's in the Sun. Ronaldo's Manchester United return scuppered because of killing Mbappe's dad. It's like a script from Coronation Street, this. They were down the Rovers' return. No, I'm only joking. Yeah, Real Madrid were going to get Mbappe, and then that's why they didn't get Ronaldo. I thought that was Bale. What a load of nonsense. What a load of nonsense. I can't say any more than that. What an absolute load of nonsense. I mean, I love Ronaldo, love him back at United, but I ain't falling for that rubbish. Absolute nonsense. There was no way that was going to happen. But I mean, historically, you do get this after the transfer window's closed, especially United. They, you know, as I said, it's a quiet time until the football comes back on the international break. You have a transfer deadline at the end of the month. Then it's the international break. It goes really quiet. Media companies have got papers to sell and articles to get clicks on. And we've already had it this weekend. We've had Bale snubbed us, and now we could have had Ronaldo. Absolutely no substance to it at all. At all. But fantastic. It's whizzed by again, Ross. Really, really enjoyed it. Really good show.
Yes, mate. I've still got that question to answer that I want to about the England manager.
Okay, I'll come back to that then, because what I want to say is that all through the summer we've been doing a Manchester United transfer daily. It stops now because it used to be 7 o'clock every morning. We can't do it. You can't do a United transfer story every day when the transfer window is closed. We are going to have Red Rumours coming back, which was a weekly one we do about all the sort of rumours they've been in and out for the week, so that will come back. But what we do have, if people haven't found it yet, we've got a new channel. It's called That's Football. The link is in the video description. Every morning at 7 AM, I will be doing a show on that channel. So join us over there. Click the link in the video description. Drop a subscribe. Every morning at 7 AM, there will be a transfer update show at 7 AM throughout the year, which will encompass all clubs and all deals. And we have got some United news tomorrow morning at 7 AM for you. So click the link in the video description. Make sure you subscribe to that channel and get involved. It's a new sort of outlet where lots of people are going to get involved in it. I'll be on it as well. But United stand will stay the same, and we will be back with that. But please do get involved. Ross, England manager then.
Yeah, if I could pick anyone, it had to be Jurgen Klopp for me, because he's such a tactical masterclass. You know, just that thought of celebrating like a 2-2 draw to like someone like Malta would be phenomenal for me. So it has to be him.
Yeah, it'd be better than, you know what, as much as Klopp's a clown and he's only got one, you know, his alphabet begins and ends with plan A, he would be infinitely better than Southgate. Who would I want as England manager? You know what? I said it at the time. A very boring answer. People won't really appreciate it. Eddie Howe. I would. I like the way Southampton. I like the way, it's not far off. I like the way Bournemouth play. He's a young manager. He's got the right idea. I don't understand why Southgate's England manager. What has he ever done at club football? Boring footballer as well. Just another. I tell you what, I didn't forget. You've started me off on England now. Everybody has. I'm going to have to end the show. He's another FA yes man. They love yes men. Brian Clough would have been the best England manager anybody ever. He's arguably one of the best managers ever. The FA wouldn't go near him because he was a bit like a Mourinho. He was a genius and he was very vocal. The FA, archaic organisation who want yes men they can control. That's why Southgate's there. Awful manager. And England will, as I said off my Twitter account before, England should do everyone a favour and just not bother getting on the plane to Russia next year, because they're going to embarrass us. Whoever we get in the group, whether it's Iceland, bloody whoever, we will get embarrassed. But I'm looking forward to the World Cup. Ross, France and Brazil look amazing. The squad depth they have.
They do, yeah. And it's the Pogba effect, really, and the Martial effect, because I'm really enjoying... Well, Martial's not in the squad because Deschamps is... yeah, I can't say it, it's too offensive. But he's an idiot, I'm going to say. But yeah, I love watching France at the minute. But just to answer the question seriously, if I was to pick any manager for England, I'd actually nick Pochettino off Tottenham, because I think he's the only manager that actually play youth players and not rely on the old guard. I think he'd actually ship them out, which is right. But yeah, the summer will be good.
Some people are saying Gary Neville there. I mean, I hate to say this because Gary Neville's a United legend, but Gary Neville was the big problem why England got embarrassed against Iceland. He was the defensive coach And even, well, I say even obviously I know a lot about football, like a lot of the viewers, like Ross and everybody else, but the way to deal with Iceland was the second ball. They throw a high ball in, and then you've got to win the second ball. Everybody knew that about Iceland. We didn't do it when we played them. He was the defensive coach, and he didn't do very well at Valencia either. You know, Gary Neville is brilliant on Monday Night Football with Carragher, but, you know, Alan Hansen was very good on Match of the Day. He, by his own admission, he said he would have been a rubbish manager. It's, you know, just because you can talk about it doesn't mean you're a good manager. I think Gary Neville will steer clear of management. I don't think he's got it, Ross. I think he's doing very well at what he does.
It's a shame because, yeah, I like Gary Neville's punditry. He's embarrassed himself in world football too much to become a manager. His spate at Valencia was the wrong time. He was shit, and yeah, that England stint was just a nail in the coffin for him. So yeah, he should stick to Monday Night Football. He's good at it, and yeah, that's it. And it's a shame because a lot of United legends have come out that way. Even Roy Keane to a point. I love Roy Keane. I love his press conferences. I don't think he's going to make a phenomenal coach because he's just too passionate.
Yeah, he's the best example. I mean, yeah, I think some people might think, oh, you're just picking on Gary Neville there. I'm not. Roy Keane is my favourite player I've ever seen for United, and a bit like Ross, I don't think he can be a manager. But you know, Roy Keane is brilliant, another legend. What I didn't understand about Gary Neville, just very quickly, and it is United related and England related, which seems to have been the theme for the last few minutes. Gary Neville played with Michael Carrick, knows exactly that and has vocally said Michael Carrick is the best English, one of the best midfielders the Premier League has ever had. He was Hodgson's right-hand man for a number of years, and Hodgson relentlessly overlooked Carrick in what were Carrick's, you know, very good years. From, you know, I know Carrick's on the decline for the last 18 months, but this was before then, and he never used to get picked. Scott Parker got picked, people like that. I mean, why was Gary... I don't understand that. I mean, was Gary Neville just Roy Hodgson's yes man, or had no influence at all, or actually condones the people like Henderson and Scott Parker and all the others got picked over Carrick? I never could understand that.
No, that's a really good point, actually. A really good point. And it just makes Gary Neville look like a bit of a bandwagon man, because he might not have rated Carrick back then. You never know. And it's quite easy for him to jump on the bandwagon when he's playing well on live TV and say, I've always rated him as a player. He's our engine. It's a tough one. And that just puts Gary Neville in a bad light, because regardless, he's either not rated Carrick and lied, or he has rated Carrick and just sat there and not said anything, which is just, why would you do that? Why would you let him pick Henderson and Parker? You know, I'd walk out the job, to be honest, mid-tournament, because that's just ridiculous, because it's your own name you're putting on the line.
George Kyle says it just shows how little influence Neville had over Hodgson. And actually, what a way to sort of finish the England conversation. I had wiped him from the brain, Hodgson, as England manager. He hasn't even had a mention, and he's probably the biggest clown of the lot. I mean, he was just a joke, an absolute embarrassment. But I've enjoyed that. Really good show. Thanks for coming on, Ross, at Hazza90 on Twitter.
That's it. Thanks, mate.
And
thanks for having me on.
Back next Sunday, and football back next Sunday. Can't wait.
United on a Sunday or a Saturday next week?
Saturday at 5:30.
On TV again. Fantastic.
I think we're on telly again like last year until late October. It's brilliant.
Brilliant stuff.
Like I said, link in the video description to That's Football. Make sure before you go you click through there and subscribe to the channel. 7 AM tomorrow we've got our new Transfer Daily show going up on there. But really enjoyed the show tonight. We're back tomorrow night at I think it's 8 o'clock tomorrow night. It might be 8:30, but the link will go up and so will the tweets. Skype Goldbridge is back. I was away last week, couldn't do Skype Goldbridge because of the internet connection, but it's back tomorrow, so it's your show tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. Really enjoy the Sunday night shows with Ross. Flies by as per usual. Remember to drop a like on the video before you go. Really good United topics for the first half an hour, and then the last 20 minutes is what we like to do and go a little bit off your comments. Really enjoyed talking about England and the United connection there. Unscripted, that's what the United Stand is. Really enjoyed it. So thank you to everybody in the live comments, and I'll see you tomorrow night on the Skype show. Get calling in, and really enjoyed it. We're back, obviously, building towards Stoke as well. Football's back. Brilliant. Thanks for watching. Okay, we'll stop it there.